Hey guys, tonight we're heading deep into the cloud-wrapped Andes, to a place where the air is thin, the gold is abundant, and the concept of a day off simply doesn't exist. You wake up on a narrow ledge overlooking a fog-drenched valley, your breath coming in short, confused gasps. The chill bites through your thin alpaca wool poncho, and your muscles already ache from yesterday's hike, even though you don't remember yesterday. Your feet are dusty, your lips are cracked, and above you looms the stone outpost of the Inca, one of many that dots the empire's highland veins. You roll over onto a bed of reeds and rough-woven blankets and immediately regret it. A stone the size of a baby guinea pig jabs you right in the ribs. The hut you slept in smells like wood smoke and damp fur, with a faint undertone of fermented corn. Welcome to your new life. You're a conscripted laborer, here to contribute to the glory of the Sapa Inca. Spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Chasqui, one of those running messengers you've maybe read about, passes your hut just before dawn, sandals slapping the dirt with urgent rhythm. You stare at him through smoke-stung eyes as he vanishes into the morning haze, carrying news, orders, maybe even a knotted quipu that decides your fate. You rise slowly, like bread in high altitude, ungracefully and half-formed. Someone hands you a handful of toasted maize and a strip of dried llama meat. Breakfast. It's not bad, actually, but your stomach still feels like it's floating several hundred feet above your head. Altitude sickness is real, and you're not exactly a local. The other workers, Quechua men in wool tunics, shoulders already dusted with stone powder, gather around a small fire. They chew coca leaves in silence, staring into the flames like they're hoping for permission to not go underground today. You try a few leaves yourself. They're bitter and make your tongue tingle like you licked a battery. But they help. Slightly. You hear it before you see it. The deep, rhythmic rumble of footsteps in perfect unison. Soldiers. The Inca are serious about their mita system, a labor tax paid with your back, your breath, and sometimes your bones. And now it's your turn to contribute. Historians still argue whether mita was more equitable than exploitative. On one hand, it spread the burden of public works across the empire. On the other, you are about to spend the next 4 months inside a mine, unpaid, and very much unconsulted. A man wrapped in a sun-bleached cloak approaches. His face is lined like tree bark, and he carries a staff not unlike a shepherd's crook. He's the foreman, or maybe a priest, or both. Around here, spiritual and administrative roles often overlap, because what better way to encourage loyalty than the suggestion your job has divine approval? You follow him to the edge of a canyon where the earth opens like a toothless mouth. A rope bridge trembles slightly in the wind. Below it, gold. Allegedly. You haven't seen any yet, just stone. And more stone. And that one llama that keeps staring at you, like it knows something you don't. The morning sun starts to burn off the fog, revealing terraces carved into the mountain like giant steps for a sleeping god. You descend slowly, feet unsure on the dusty path. At this altitude, your breath becomes currency. You're always spending it and never saving any. You pass a shrine on the way down. A small clay bowl sits at its base, filled with chicha beer and a scattering of coca leaves, offerings to Pachamama, the Earth Mother. You hesitate, then drop one of your own leaves in, just in case she's feeling judgmental today. By the time you reach the mine's entrance, your knees are trembling. You could lie and say it's the altitude, but really, you're scared, not just of being underground, but of what this job might do to your mind, and your lungs, and maybe your sense of time. Because here, deep in the Andes, gold isn't just metal. It's myth, it's ritual, it's expectation. And you're not here to get rich. You're here to make someone else richer than you can even imagine. Your feet crunch softly on the gravel path as the foreman leads you toward the mouth of the mine. No one speaks, except the wind, which whistles through narrow crevices and plays a mournful tune on the jagged stones. Ahead, a group of workers, heads bowed, stand in quiet formation. You half expect someone to start singing a hymn or announce a sacrifice. Instead, they simply wait for the signal, the sunrise, or maybe just their courage to return. This isn't a job you signed up for. No one really signs up for meter duty. It's an obligation, a civic requirement, an imperial expectation cloaked in the language of duty to the sun. But for you, it just feels like a very bad idea dressed in ceremonial feathers. The foreman points to a row of baskets piled with tools. Stone mallets, wooden wedges, bone scrapers, nothing metal. You're in one of the richest empires of the ancient Americas, yet iron isn't a thing here. The Incas didn't smelt it. They didn't need to. They had muscle, systems, and you. He hands you a mallet. It looks like someone took a river rock and tied it to a stick using llama sinew. You stare at it for a second, like maybe there's a better version hiding underneath. Nope. That's it. The guy next to you grins. His teeth are missing in interesting places. He offers a handful of more coca leaves. You chew them slowly. They're the only performance enhancer available, unless you count sheer terror. The mine yawns in front of you, like the world's most uninviting mouth. The entrance is a tight squeeze, carved awkwardly by centuries of sweat and prayer. It's not so much a tunnel as a suggestion of one. Low ceiling, uneven walls, and the strong scent of wet rock and human endurance. You duck. Then you duck again. At some point, you give up and just crawl. Your breath becomes shallow, not just from the altitude this time, but from the thin, dusty air that clings to your throat like fine ash. You taste it with every inhale. History, decay, and llama dung. Inside, there's no light but the dim glow of small torches wedged into the stone. Their flames flicker with every breath of wind from above, casting shadows that dance like ghosts from earlier shifts. You see your job. It's simple. You're to widen a narrow vein of ore, chipping away at the walls with your mallet and wedge, bit by dusty bit. Your supervisor demonstrates. Place the wedge. Strike it firmly, but not desperately. Wait for the crack to widen. You try. The first blow feels okay. The second hurts your wrist. By the fourth, you're pretty sure this is how wrists die. The stone doesn't care. The wall just stares back, unimpressed. Historians still argue whether Incan mining was done solely by conscripted peasants, or if it included willing specialists. Based on the pain in your arms and the blank stares of everyone else in here, you're guessing willing isn't the key word. Someone nearby starts to hum, a low, repetitive tune that sounds like a lullaby for stones. It helps, oddly. You fall into a rhythm. Strike, pause, chew leaf, strike again. The rock slowly yields, like a stubborn argument finally breaking apart. Your hands blister. Your back curves into shapes you didn't know were possible. Dust creeps into your eyelashes and gums. In time, it vanishes. You think it's been an hour, maybe two, but you look up and find the torch next to you has already burned down halfway. Or was that someone else's torch? Does it even matter? Occasionally, you pass someone leaving the shaft, their faces pale and hands trembling. They don't look at you. They don't need to. You're already becoming them. At one point, a small creature scurries past your foot. Not a rat, something fuzzier, like a rock rabbit. You pretend it's a hallucination and keep chipping. This is normal now. There's a faint glint in the wall ahead. Gold, possibly. Or just mica playing tricks. You crawl closer. It's gold. Tiny flecks embedded in quartz, winking up at you like they know you'll never be allowed to keep them. You touch it gently. It's cold and unyielding, the way all beautiful things seem to be. You don't feel joy. You feel tired. Because this isn't treasure, it's tax. Above ground, people imagine ink and gold as pure, sacred, and ornamental. Down here, it's labor. Your hands, your lungs, your time. All ground up into tribute for a ruler you'll never meet. A god king who sleeps beneath gold-leafed ceilings, while you can't even feel your fingers anymore. You stop to stretch. Your joints crack audibly. Someone hands you a gourd of water. It's warm, metallic, and tastes faintly of torch smoke. Best thing you've had all day. You sit for a moment, letting your breathing steady, before the foreman's shadow looms once more. He taps the mallet, not gently. Back to work.
The air's thinner down here, which makes every movement feel like dragging your limbs through syrup. But worse than the thinness is the cold. A creeping, bone-deep kind that clings to you despite the heat of your labor. Your tunic sticks to your back with a cold sweat. Every time you stop swinging the mallet, the chill seeps right back in, as if punishing you for resting. You reach for more coca leaves, tucking them into your cheek like the others taught you. The bitterness no longer surprises you. If anything, it's become comforting. A quiet companion to the ache in your arms and the dust in your throat. You've learned to hold the leaf just right, letting it work slowly, not greedily. That's the trick, they say. Make it last, or you'll feel the crash before your shift ends. One of the older men nearby lets out a low whistle and gestures for you to follow. He's leading a group to a different part of the mine. A smaller shaft, tighter, steeper. You glance at your foreman. No words are exchanged, just a grunt and a nod. You're going. You stoop and crawl, the stone brushing your shoulders on both sides now. The tunnel smells different here. Less like smoke and dust, more like something old and wet. Your fingers brush something slick on the wall. Moss, maybe? Or something else? You don't ask. The incline steepens. At one point, you nearly lose your footing and only barely catch yourself on a protruding beam. The beam is carved with faint markings. Symbols? Protective prayers? Or maybe just tally marks from a worker who wanted to remember how many days he'd made it. Historians still argue whether such markings were ritual or practical. You, personally, suspect both. At the base of the shaft, the workers form a small circle. One man pulls out a cloth-wrapped bundle and begins to unwrap it slowly, reverently. Inside is a bit of dried llama meat, a pinch of salt, and a small clay cup filled with something that smells sour and strong. A ritual offering. Not to the emperor this time, but to the Apus, the mountain spirits. They're believed to dwell deep within the Andes, inside the stone itself. You're not sure if you believe in them yet, but after crawling into their home with a splintering wooden mallet and zero backup plan, you're willing to be polite. You mimic the others. Touch the meat to your forehead, breathe in the smoke from the cup, press your hand flat to the cold earth. For a moment, everyone is still. The only sound is the steady drip of mineral water somewhere behind you. And then the work resumes. You wedge yourself into a corner of the shaft and start tapping again. Not swinging, tapping. There's no room for flair down here. Just patient, rhythmic chipping that echoes like a heartbeat in the men begin to hum again. Another song, slower this time. You don't know the words, but you feel the pattern of it, the strange comfort in its steady repetition. It fills the space the torchlight doesn't reach. You pause to look at your hands. They've become different, swollen, dirt-crusted, almost not yours.
But when you clench them, they still respond. For now. Someone beside you whispers something. You don't catch it. You lean in and they repeat it louder. Inti will see it. The sun god. You almost laugh. Inti hasn't been down here in hours. But maybe that's the point. You're digging toward the light, even if it's just symbolic. The Inca worshipped Inti above all, and gold was his reflection on earth. That's why this work matters. Every fleck chipped from the wall is a sliver of divine material, meant for temples, for sun disks, for the gleam of power. And none of it will ever be yours. You take a break and sit with your back to the wall. It's not comfortable, but it's better than nothing. A drop of water lands on your head. You look up instinctively. Bad idea. Dirt rains into your eyes. Classic mistake. You blink through the grit, trying to remember how many hours have passed. There's no sun down here, no shadows to measure. Just work and rest, then work again. Sleep, if you're lucky, in some corner with your knees tucked to your chest, like a child hiding from thunder. You've heard stories about people going mad in these mines, whispering to the walls, singing to rocks, believing the gold was talking back. You're not there yet, but when the silence gets thick enough, you could see how that happens. Eventually, the older man signals again. The group is moving back up. You crawl after them, body creaking like an old boat, every joint a rope pulled too tight. The tunnel feels longer on the way up. Or maybe your legs have just forgotten how to climb. At the exit, the light hits your face like a slap. You shield your eyes, then breathe deep. The air still smells like cold stone, but now it has hints of firewood and sweat and something cooking, maybe soup, maybe corn. Whatever it is, it smells like not underground, and that's good enough. You're out for now, but not done. You step out of the mine, blinking like you've just been born into a world that's both brighter and blurrier than you remember. The sunlight feels foreign against your skin, almost rude in its warmth. You want to lie down, to stretch like a dog in a sunbeam, and never move again. But the others are already unloading baskets of stone and raw ore from their backs, like ants shrugging off leaves twice their size. No time to rest. Not yet. You're handed a gourd of water again. This time, it tastes like dirt and metal, but you gulp it greedily. Someone presses a handful of toasted maize into your palm. You chew without thought, the kernel soft from the steam of your own breath. It's fuel, nothing more. Then comes the worst part. Worse than the digging, worse than the bleeding knuckles and bruised shoulders. It's the part where you go back down. But not immediately. First, you help lower someone else. The shaft entrance is nothing more than a dark slit between rocks, reinforced with wooden beams that look questionably scorched. Hanging from a crude pulley system is a woven net, big enough to hold one crouching man and a few baskets of ore. It's your job now to grip the ropes, steady the basket, and guide it downward with a caution bordering on paranoia. The man inside doesn't speak. He just holds on tight, staring straight ahead, as though eye contact might make the rope break. You lower him slowly, arm over arm, and hear the soft thud of him reaching the bottom. Then up comes the empty basket. You repeat the process again and again. Down go the men, up come the stones. It's not fast, it's not thrilling, but it's deeply nerve-wracking. Because you can't see the bottom anymore. Just the slack in the rope and the way the mountain groans quietly when too much weight shifts in the wrong place. Historians still argue whether the Incas used elaborate pulley systems or relied entirely on manpower and woven ropes. What you know now, firsthand, is that it takes 5 people to lower one man and even more to raise him. The system is simple, but the stakes, not so much. Finally, your turn comes again. You duck into the basket. It smells like sweat and something vaguely medicinal. Maybe someone's talisman soaked with llama fat. You clutch the sides as the world tips and the mountain swallows you once more. This shaft is deeper, narrower, and wetter. You can hear it as you descend, the soft drip, drip, drip of water echoing through stone like the mountain's heartbeat. You touch down in a pocket of earth that feels more like a cathedral than a tunnel. The ceiling is high here, the air strangely cool and humid. Torches cast light on walls streaked with quartz and what might be veins of gold. Real ones this time. Your job now is different. You're not digging, you're hauling. A young boy, not more than 12, loads a basket for you, stone by stone, his face set in a frown too old for his years. His arms are thin, but his movements are practiced. You nod at him, and he nods back. No words, just mutual understanding. This place ages everyone. You lift the basket onto your back using a tump line, a woven strap that loops across your forehead and takes the brunt of the weight. The sensation is immediate and brutal. The rocks pull you backward like they want you to disappear into the wall, but you stay upright, barely. The path ahead is winding, low, and uneven. You start your slow ascent, every step a negotiation. The floor is slick with mineral water. You slide twice, catch yourself once, fall once. No one helps. Everyone is balancing their own burden. There's a quiet rule here. Help only if someone stops moving. Otherwise, keep going. You pass an opening where two older men are using fire and water to crack the stone, a technique called fire setting. They heat the rock, then pour water over it. The sudden temperature change causes it to fracture. Simple, elegant, and dangerous. The steam that rises is thick and sulfurous. You duck your head and keep going. Your back screams. Your legs tremble. Your mind, it drifts. You start counting your steps, then lose track. You try singing a lullaby your grandmother used to hum, until you realize you're singing it out loud, and it sounds weird in this echoing chamber of sweat and flickering torchlight. Eventually, you emerge into open air again. The foreman doesn't say a word. He just motions to the drop zone, and you tip your basket. The rocks tumble into a pile with a satisfying crunch. You almost smile. Almost. Then he nods toward the shaft again. No rest. Back down. You sit for a moment on a flat rock nearby, pretending to tie your sandal just to buy yourself 30 seconds of stillness. The sandal's already tied. Doesn't matter. A llama stands nearby, chewing thoughtfully, watching you with what feels like passive judgment. You squint at it. It blinks. You blink. The moment stretches. You get back up. As you climb into the net for another descent, the wind picks up, whistling through the beams. Someone somewhere is chanting softly. A prayer, maybe. Or just muscle memory. You feel the ropes tighten above you, then you sink slowly, like a reluctant stone.
You're starting to learn the rhythms now. Not comfortably, not gracefully, but your body is slowly adapting to the strange choreography of life inside an Incan gold mine. Wake, chew, haul, swing, breathe, repeat. There's no room for creativity here, no time for boredom, because every task is its own kind of survival. This time, your assignment is different. You're stationed near one of the interior walls, where the ore runs thin, but the workload doesn't. You're shown a pile of tools, if you can call them that. There's a bone chisel, smoothed by hundreds of hands, and a mallet so cracked it looks like it might turn to splinters mid-swing. You're told to open the wall, which is a poetic way of saying, make this rock hurt. You kneel, position the chisel, and swing. Nothing. You swing again, harder. Still nothing. It takes 10 minutes to produce a crack that looks like it might be more than an optical illusion. And yet the others seem unbothered. They hum quietly. They chat without urgency. One man laughs when your mallet bounces off the wall and nearly clocks you in the forehead. The humor isn't cruel, it's just survival in disguise. Historians still argue whether the Incas saw mining as purely economic or if they considered it spiritual labor. Based on what you're seeing, it's both. The tools may be primitive, but the technique is strangely deliberate. Workers murmur to the rock. They pause at moments that seem chosen more by feeling than by routine. It's as if they're asking permission with every swing. Someone beside you is heating stones over a flame. You watch as they carefully line them along a crack, then pour water over it. Steam hisses. The stone moans.
A sliver breaks away with a satisfying crack. You flinch, then feel a pang of envy. That guy knows what he's doing. Your hands, meanwhile, are a mess. Blisters have given way to raw patches. One finger feels suspiciously numb. You switch grips, awkwardly. The mallet is heavier now, even though it hasn't changed. The boy from earlier returns, his basket now full of gleaming bits of ore. He moves with an eerie efficiency, like a miner reincarnated across centuries. He glances at you, your pitiful crack in the wall, and offers a shy shrug. You nod solemnly. It's okay, little guy. You're winning this round. You reach for more coca leaves. The bitter edge is now a familiar friend, like that one coworker who never talks much, but always seems to be around when you need them. You chew slowly, savoring the faint tingle as your breath steadies. Your legs ache. Your arms ache. Even your jaw aches, from clenching and chewing, and silence. You stretch, slightly, and are rewarded with a chorus of pops from your spine. That's probably fine. The air is thick with dust now, kicked up from several workers cracking a new chamber to the left. The torches flicker more often. You cough into your sleeve, which does almost nothing. The fabric is already coated in the stuff. Breathing is work. Talking, optional. Every now and then, you catch glimpses of the gold. It's never in huge chunks, no treasure chests or sparkling veins, just tiny flecks, little streaks within the stone. But when you run your fingers over them, they glitter with almost smug satisfaction. You think about how far they'll travel from here, melted, beaten, shaped into ceremonial discs or jewelry, for someone who's never even seen a pickaxe. You know the rules. All gold belongs to the Empire, to the Sapa Inca, divine son of the sun. You are merely the courier, the extractor. You touch it, but you do not keep it. You carry it, but not for yourself. Outside, they say, some pieces go to the Temple of the Sun in Cusco, others to provincial shrines or for diplomatic gifts. One day, Spanish eyes will widen at the sheer volume of it all. But for now, it's just you, a stone wall, and the weight of a civilization asking you to dig deeper. A worker calls out suddenly. He's struck something odd, softer than stone, but not gold. Everyone pauses. The foreman approaches, eyes narrow. After a moment, they all nod. It's an old burial cavity. These mountains are riddled with them, remnants of miners past, some honored, some forgotten. They cover it again, quietly, respectfully. No prayers, but the silence is its own kind of ceremony. You return to your wall, hands colder than before. The torch beside you dims slightly. You wonder, just for a moment, how long the wick has left. When the break is called, you don't move immediately. You sit, back to the wall, breathing in the scent of hot stone and old sweat. Someone hands you a gourd of chicha, slightly fermented maize beer. It's sour, fizzy, and weirdly refreshing. You nod your thanks. Then, from the tunnel ahead, a low rumble. Everyone freezes. It's not an earthquake, not quite. But the ground shifts just enough to remind you where you are, inside a living mountain, full of pressure and memory. A pebble tumbles past your foot. The foreman calls for calm. He sounds annoyed more than afraid. Still, everyone moves with care. No shouting, just tight eyes and quick, precise hands. The shaking stops, for now. Back to the wall. You pick up your mallet. It feels slightly heavier again. Or maybe that's just you. You swing the mallet again, this time more from obligation than expectation. The gold isn't giving up its secrets easily today. Or maybe the mountain is still a little grumpy after that tremor. Either way, the blows feel duller, the stone harder, and your motivation thinner. Just behind you, the foreman strolls past.
You can call it strolling.
His pace is slow, but there's weight in each step, like the stone itself acknowledges his authority. He stops near your shoulder and eyes your progress. You brace for a scolding. Instead, he simply grunts and keeps walking. Still, the silence says enough. You're behind. The foreman is a mystery. No one seems to know exactly where he came from or how long he's been working this mine. His face is weathered, eyes always narrowed. He carries a staff, not decorative, not ceremonial, just a smooth pole of carved wood that he leans on like it's part of his body. Some of the workers say he used to be a priest. Others whisper that he never leaves the mine, even at night, that he sleeps by the smelters, dreaming in smoke. Historians still argue whether mine overseers were purely administrative or if they doubled as ritual specialists, blending the physical and spiritual hierarchies of Incan society. What's clear from where you're standing, wobbling actually, is that this man commands both fear and faith. He rarely speaks, but when he does, his voice is surprisingly soft. Once you heard him tell a younger worker to respect the silence in the stone. You don't know what that means exactly, but since then, you've found yourself whispering apologies after each especially loud blow. You pause now and glance over at him. He's standing near a younger boy, probably no older than 10, correcting the angle of his wedge with a slow, steady hand. The boy nods, solemnly, eyes wide. You remember being that age, or maybe that feeling of trying to impress someone without knowing if you're even doing it right. Your own wall yields, finally. A small clump of quartz breaks away, revealing a streak of something faintly yellow. You lean in. Gold. Not much, but it sparkles back at you like a reward. You want to call out, to show someone, but instead you just stare at it for a moment, then keep going. You know the rule. You don't get to keep it. Drawing attention might just earn you a longer shift. Lunch comes later than expected. You follow the others up to a small overhang near the mine's upper entrance. There's no proper break room here, just flat stones and whatever shade the cliffside offers. You sit cross-legged and are handed a bowl of maize gruel and a thin strip of charred meat. You eat slowly, savoring each bite like it's the last meal of the day, which it very well might be. Then comes the part that still feels strange, the offering.
Before anyone eats fully, someone, usually the eldest among you, places a pinch of food into a small woven bowl and sets it on a rock ledge. Then comes the chicha, poured gently onto the earth. The words are murmured, never shouted, a prayer to the Apus, the mountain gods, and to Inti, the sun. Not for prosperity, not even safety, just acknowledgement. You follow suit. You tear a small bit of your meat and drop it onto the bowl. You pour a few sips of your drink into the dirt. You even whisper something, though you're not sure to whom. It just feels right. A llama trots past in the background, as if late to something. Its bells jingle softly, those little copper ones tied around its neck to keep the caravan in rhythm. The sound is almost musical, like wind chimes. Back to work. You descend again, this time to the mid-level shafts. Less cramped than the deepest tunnels, but hotter. Much hotter. The walls here sweat, as if the mountain is exhaling. The torches burn brighter, their flames fed by invisible drafts. And then you smell it. Copal, a tree resin the Incas burned during certain rituals. The scent is thick and sweet, almost too much in this close space. You round a corner and find two men kneeling beside a small fire, murmuring chants in Quechua. They're burning offerings, copal, coca leaves, and what looks like a tiny gold figurine. A bird, maybe. You freeze, not out of fear, but reverence. This isn't for tourists. This is old, real. The kind of ritual not written down but passed hand to hand, like a trusted tool. The foreman appears behind you again. He says nothing, but places a hand on your shoulder. Not hard, not unkind, just enough to say, you're in the right place. You bow your head and step back. No words, just the fire, the chant, and the gold melting slowly into ash. Later, when your shift finally ends, you emerge into dusk. The sky is deep purple, the last rays of sun touching the peaks with orange fire.
The mountains don't seem threatening now, just immense, timeless. The workers begin the slow walk back to their quarters, baskets slung over their backs, tunics stained with soot and dust. You follow, not talking, just listening to the crunch of sandals on gravel, the occasional cough, and the soft lull of a pan flute someone is playing up the path. You reach your hut, crawl inside, and collapse onto the same scratchy blanket as before. The stars are already out, blinking above like tiny promises. You exhale, the taste.
The next morning doesn't so much arrive as it ambushes you. You wake with your cheek stuck to the woven mat, your joints in full rebellion, and your spine filing a formal complaint. A gust of highland wind slips through a gap in the wall, carrying the familiar sense of smoke, sweat, and boiled maize. Your knees pop as you rise. Someone outside is already humming. You drag yourself outside and squint into the pale dawn. The sun isn't up yet, but the mountains glow with that eerie bluish light that feels both too early and too late. You spot the llamas first, lined up like a procession of sleepy priests. Their breath puffs into the cold air, and their ears flicker every time the wind shifts. They know what's coming. You're starting to learn too. The gold has to go somewhere, after all. That's today's task, transport. No more digging, no more swinging tools at stone like an amateur boxer. Today you walk, with weight. The ore you helped collect has been ground down, sorted by hand, and packed into small cloth bundles, tied with knotted cords. It doesn't look like much, but when one of the older men drops a bundle into your carry basket, your knees buckle slightly. Gold dust is deceiving. It's heavy, concentrated, and for the Incas, sacred, which means it must be moved very carefully. Your group sets off just before sunrise. No one talks. The only sounds are the soft padding of sandals on stone, the jingle of llama bells, and the steady crunch of gravel beneath dozens of feet. The road is narrow, clinging to the side of the cliff like an afterthought. One misstep, and you're more memory than man. You've been assigned the last spot in the llama train, which feels suspiciously like a vote of no confidence. The llama in front of you is older, slightly cranky, and has a habit of walking just a little slower than necessary, forcing you to adjust constantly or get a face full of swishing tail. And then, of course, it stops completely. You sigh and wait. The beast stares off the cliff like it's remembering a past life. You can't blame it. The air is thinner today, or maybe you're just noticing it more. Every breath is shallow, and your mouth tastes like old fabric and altitude. You adjust the tump line across your forehead and continue, step by careful step. Along the way, you pass a series of carved stones, set upright like mile markers. Each one bears patterns you don't recognize. Interlocking spirals, puma heads, sunbursts. Historians still argue over their meanings. Some say they were part of the Incan calendar, others claim they marked sacred paths. You just know that every time you pass one, your guide spits on the ground and taps his chest. Insurance, maybe. Eventually, the path levels out into a terrace, a rest stop of sorts. Someone builds a small fire. Water is passed around. Chicha is shared in shallow bowls. You sit on a sun-warmed rock and take the bundle off your back. It leaves a faint, sticky imprint on your tunic. Lunch today is chuño, freeze-dried potatoes that look like small stones and taste better than they look. You chew slowly, not for enjoyment, but to make the moment last. The fire crackles. A breeze stirs the dust. Someone starts whistling a tune with no beginning and no end. You look out over the valley. It's staggering. A patchwork of green terraces clings to the mountain slopes like scales on a dragon's back. Below, a river glints in the distance, winding through the landscape like a silver ribbon dropped by the gods. For a moment, everything is still. Then the foreman stands. The moment is over. You rise, stretch your back, retie the tump line, and begin the descent.
This path winds toward a collection site near the smelting pits, where gold becomes glory. The llamas begin to grumble. You sympathize. Your knees are not built for this, especially with 25 pounds of gold dust strapped to your spine. You lean forward like the others, turning your body into a human question mark. It helps. A little. Then comes the bridge. Not a bridge in the usual sense. This is a bundle of woven grass ropes strung across a canyon that seems too wide, too deep, and frankly, too ambitious for grass to handle. One by one, the llamas cross. Their hooves make soft, rapid thumps on the ropes. They don't hesitate. They never do. Your turn. You step onto the bridge and immediately regret every decision that brought you to this moment. The ropes sway. The wind picks up. Somewhere far below, a bird cries out, possibly laughing. You keep going. Hand over hand, step by careful step, until your foot finally touches solid ground again. You don't kiss the earth, but you think about it. The path resumes, and soon the scent of charcoal hits you. The smelters. Ahead, a cluster of clay furnaces belches thick, dark smoke into the air. Workers move around them like shadows, stoking fires, feeding bellows made from llama hides, chanting softly. The heat hits you like a wave. After the chill of the mountain, it's overwhelming. You deliver your bundle to a kneeling man who wears a copper disc around his neck. He doesn't speak, just opens the sack, nods, and disappears into the heat. That's it. Your part of the journey is done. But as you step back, watching the flames consume the darkness, you feel something strange. Not pride. Not exactly, just participation. You helped shape a sliver of the sun's will. Then your stomach growls. Loudly. The llama next to you snorts. Fair.
You think you're done for the day. You think you've earned rest. You're wrong. A loud snap cracks through the dusk. A sound that echoes off the canyon walls and freezes everyone in place. It's not thunder. It's not a celebration. It's something breaking. A rope. Specifically, a support beam tied to the upper entrance of Shaft 2. Suddenly there's movement. Workers rushing past you. Baskets abandoned mid-unloading, their footsteps pounding like drums on the hard-packed earth. You don't ask questions, you follow. Because if there's one thing you've learned in this place, it's that when others run, you run too. The air grows colder again as you near the mine. The sun's nearly gone, the blue shadows of the mountain stretching like fingers across the earth. You round a bend and find a small crowd gathered at the edge of the shaft. There's no panic, just that heavy, stomach-clenching quiet that means something serious has happened. You don't see anyone crying, you don't hear shouts, but the atmosphere is different. Still, grim. You spot the foreman standing at the shaft's lip, hands behind his back, staring down into the dark as if he can will answers out of the rock. A coil of rope lies at his feet, frayed where it clearly snapped. That's the sound you heard. Two men emerge from the shaft, breathless and coated in dust. They're carrying a third between them, limp but breathing. His leg is twisted in a way it shouldn't be. No one screams, they just lay him gently on a mat, and a woman you hadn't noticed before begins to clean the wound with something that smells like mint and smoke. No one questions why she's here. Maybe she's always been here. Historians still debate the extent of medical knowledge in Inca society. We know they performed skull surgeries, used herbal anesthetics, even set broken bones with surprising success. But there's little record of emergency care in the mines. What you're seeing now is likely one of the hundreds of invisible routines that made this brutal work possible. You stand there, trying not to stare. Your legs are trembling again, not from exertion this time, but from the quiet realization that this could have been you, still might be. The foreman finally speaks, his voice low but firm. He points to the rope coil, then to a group of younger workers. You're among them. New rope must be made, transported, installed. Now. So much for rest.
You're handed a spindle of woven fiber, made from ichu grass. Tough stuff, surprisingly strong when braided correctly. The Inca mastered suspension bridges with this material, stretching cables over canyons without nails or modern tools. And you're about to use it to reinforce a shaft that nearly swallowed a man. No pressure.
You and your small team carry the rope up the path, the mountain already cloaked in night. The only light comes from torch bundles and the occasional flash of starlight off wet stone. Someone mutters a prayer behind you. Another hums. You just breathe. The shaft looms ahead, a black mouth surrounded by anxious shadows. The torchlight flickers against the carved beams and stone supports. A few men descend to assess the damage. You wait, gripping the rope like it might anchor your thoughts. Then comes the signal. You lower the new rope carefully, uncoiling it like a sacred offering. Below, voices shout affirmations. The work begins. You sit on a flat stone while you wait, watching the stars appear one by one through a crack in the clouds. The air is crisp again, but you're too tired to notice. A llama lies beside you, not dead, just asleep. You envy it. Eventually, the voices from below go silent. A new team climbs out of the shaft, nodding to the foreman. He nods back. It's done, for now. You expect to be dismissed. Instead, you're told to gather tools. Cleanup duty. You move slowly now, every muscle a separate negotiation. You gather discarded mallets, broken baskets, a half-empty pouch of coca leaves. Someone left their chicha gourd. You sip it before handing it over. No judgment. As you walk the tools back to the storage hut, you notice how the night has changed. It's still, but not silent. There's wind in the trees, a distant hoot of some bird you can't name, and the rhythmic thunk of someone still working late in one of the smaller shafts. You wonder if the mountain ever sleeps, or if it dreams. You reach the hut and drop off the tools. The foreman stands nearby, arms folded. He doesn't say thank you, but he doesn't have to. He nods once, that's enough. You return to your quarters alone. The fire inside is low, casting long shadows across the straw bedding and clay walls. You collapse into the blankets, every bone in your body humming with exhaustion. You close your eyes, then open them again when you remember the man with the broken leg. You hope he's okay, but deep down, you know that hoping doesn't count for much up here. The mountain has its own rules, and tonight it spared you. You wake before sunrise,
Though you're not entirely sure why. Maybe it's the cold, maybe it's the stiffness in your shoulders, maybe it's the llama gently nosing through your leftover blanket for a warm spot. Either way, your body stirs before your mind catches up, and by the time you sit upright, the horizon is just beginning to blush with pale gold. Outside, the sky is wide and clear, that deep, high-altitude blue that only seems to exist in stories or paintings, the kind of sky that makes you feel very small and very temporary. Today's work is different. Today, you join the llama train. Again. Only this time, you're not delivering gold. You're picking up supplies from a village lower down the mountain. Food, tools, firewood, bundles of woven grass, even a new ceremonial tunic for the foreman. It's not glamorous, but it's better than digging, and you welcome the change. You meet the caravan by the main path, where the llamas are being loaded with small, awkward bundles. One of them is trying to eat a rope, another looks like it's fallen asleep mid-chew. You're assigned a grumpy one, again, and shown how to tie the cargo with knots so secure even the wind gives up trying to undo them. The trail downward is steep and narrow. The drop to your right disappears into mist. One misplaced step, and it's a very short story. The llamas don't seem concerned. They've walked this path their entire lives. They move with the kind of nonchalant confidence you deeply envy. You follow. The descent is jarring at first. Your legs ache from the sudden use of unfamiliar muscles. Your feet skid over gravel, and twice you nearly lose your balance. The tump line across your forehead pulls with each shift of the cargo basket. It feels like someone is gently, persistently trying to remove your head. And yet, the further you walk, the more the pain becomes background noise. You start to notice things. The scent of eucalyptus leaves crushed underfoot, the distant trickle of a stream, the rustle of tiny lizards darting into the underbrush as you pass. You're walking through living history now, places that once pulsed with entire civilizations, and still echo with footsteps older than empires. Historians know that the Inca road network, or Chapacanan, stretched for thousands of miles, connecting mountains, valleys, deserts, and jungles in an intricate web. But walking it, feeling every bend and incline beneath your feet, that's something books never quite capture. Along the way, you pass a small shrine, 3 stones stacked neatly beside the trail, with a few coca leaves resting on top and a single red flower tucked between them. You don't know who left it, or when, but you stop anyway.
You add a leaf of your own. You keep walking.
After several hours, the landscape changes. The air warms, the trees grow taller, greener. Birds call overhead, real ones this time, not imagined hallucinations. The village appears as a smattering of low, thatched huts, smoke rising from cooking fires, and the sound of children laughing somewhere out of sight. It's disorienting. This place is alive. Not weary, not buried in dust and labor, just ordinary. You stop in the plaza and unload your llama's cargo. A few women approach, examining the bundles and dividing them efficiently. You're handed a gourd of warm maize drink, thicker than chicha, more like porridge, and some kind of roasted tuber wrapped in a leaf. You eat quietly, sitting on a stone bench, feeling out of place in a world that smells of earth and cumin, not fire and fear. One of the elders offers you a cloth bundle. Inside is a small figurine carved from bone, an ila, a household totem meant to bless crops or attract rain. It's worn smooth, clearly passed through many hands. She smiles and nods, gesturing for you to take it. You hesitate, unsure whether this is a gift or a test. You accept it anyway, bowing slightly. You stay in the village no longer than a few hours, just long enough for the llamas to be reloaded with the return cargo, sacks of dried beans, rolled mats, baskets of dried herbs. One contains several squawking guinea pigs, bound loosely and very much alive. They make eye contact with you. It is, frankly, awkward. The path back up is worse than the descent. That's just how mountains work. Your thighs burn, your lungs tighten. The sun seems brighter now, almost smug. You chew coca leaves until your cheek is numb. At one point, the lead llama stops abruptly. You nearly walk into it. Ahead, a landslide has half covered the path. There's a quiet discussion. Some of the men begin clearing rocks. Others check the edge for stability. You sit down, more from necessity than permission, and sip from your water gourd. The guinea pigs are oddly quiet now, like they too sense the drop in tension. Historians still argue how often these paths were maintained and how the Incas managed to keep such a vast road network functional across mountain ranges. You now know the answer: human willpower, llama intelligence, and a frankly worrying disregard for gravity. Eventually, the path is cleared enough to pass. You cross it slowly, heartbeat drumming in your ears, and then you climb. Hour after hour, switchback after switchback, until the mine reappears above, like a stone guardian. Home. Sort of. You deliver your cargo. No one cheers, no one claps, but a bowl of soup is waiting by your doorway. You slurp it down without ceremony. Then, before sleep, you unwrap the figurine. You place it gently beside your blanket, facing the entrance. You don't know if it works. The following morning begins in silence. Not the usual sleepy quiet, but the kind that feels deliberate, like the mountain is holding its breath. You wake to find the air heavy, the light strange. Even the llamas seem subdued. They stand motionless by the path, heads low, ears twitching now and then, as if listening to something only they can hear. You step outside and notice the others already gathering near the central clearing. The foreman is there, of course, flanked by 2 men in bright woven tunics with wide red sashes. That's new. You haven't seen them before. You find out quickly, they're inspectors, royal ones, sent from Cusco. Today is accounting day, and the mountain keeps receipts. You're not going into the shaft. You're not walking a trail. You're standing still for hours while people count things. Loads of ore, baskets of tools, bundles of rope, even leftover scraps of food. You're handed a spindle of thread and told to sit near the ledge and twist cord until told otherwise. Your hands are sore, your shoulders ache, but somehow this menial task is worse than hauling rocks. There's something uniquely exhausting about being watched. Every fidget feels suspicious. Every blink too long makes you look lazy. In the distance, smoke curls from the smelting area. Gold is being processed now, refined, melted, shaped. You wonder if any of the ore you hauled will end up as part of an offering to the Temple of the Sun. Or perhaps it will adorn the head of a noble. Maybe it'll just disappear into a vault beneath Cusco, never to be seen again. One of the inspectors approaches, holding a bundle of cords. Quipu, the knotted record-keeping system the Incas used to track labor, tribute, time, and who knows what else. He squats beside the foreman and begins feeling each knot, muttering softly under his breath. Historians are still piecing together how exactly the quipu worked. The general idea is clear. Different knots, colors, and distances represented different categories of information. But some scholars now believe it wasn't just numbers, that it may have held narratives, memories, even poetry. You're not sure. You just know it makes you nervous when someone's fingers tighten around the string with your name woven into it. The inspector pauses, glances at you, then says something to the foreman in a low voice. You straighten, trying not to look alarmed. The foreman responds with a short grunt and a shrug. The inspector raises an eyebrow, then moves on. You have no idea what just happened. You may never know. You just keep twisting the thread. Later, you're called to help organize the supply hut.
This is fine. The hut smells like dried herbs and old wood, and it's crowded with baskets, cords, and the occasional startled rat. You sort tools into piles, restock torches, and replace cracked bowls with new ones from a crate that smells like eucalyptus oil and charcoal. At one point, you find a carving knife wrapped in alpaca cloth, so finely made it almost feels like a mistake. You set it aside, carefully. The older man working with you hums while he works. It's a tune you've heard before. Slow, circular, with a melody that makes your chest ache in a way you don't understand. He catches your glance and gives a nod, like, yes, it's that kind of day. After lunch, chicha, maize cakes, and roasted corn, you're sent to help repair the drainage channels. A fancy word for digging small trenches through mud while ankle deep in very cold water. Apparently last week's tremors shifted the slopes enough to cause minor flooding. Now the lower tunnels are at risk. You and two others work your way down the incline, scooping dirt, redirecting runoff, trying not to fall into the very holes you're digging. One man slips. He laughs, then curses, then laughs again. It's not the usual cold, biting laughter of people going through something hard. This is lighter, more human. Like, for one brief hour, things feel survivable again. You even smile, a little. Later that evening, you visit the smelting area, not to work, just to sit nearby. The fire draws you in, the way it moves, unpredictable and calm at the same time. The furnace glows like a second sun, flickering against the night. Nearby, two priests chant over a fresh ingot. You can't make out the words, but their voices are soft, rhythmic, gentle. They're not doing it for show. There's no one here to impress, just them, the gold, and the fire. You wonder if this is what they meant when they said the Inca didn't see gold as currency, but as life, as sunlight made solid. Not something to trade, but something to honor. You sit a little longer, watching the flames twist and breathe. Then you return to your hut. The air is cooler tonight, the stars sharper. You glance at the Ela totem by your blanket. It hasn't moved, obviously.
But it feels different now. Heavier, like it's holding more than it did before. You lie down, head against the blanket roll, muscles sore in ways you can't name. But your thoughts, for once, are quiet. Outside, the mountain hums. You match its breath.
The next morning greets you with fire. Not literal fire, thankfully, but a sunrise so intense it seems to set the peaks ablaze. The sky glows gold, orange, and a strange violet that fades as quickly as it comes. You sit on the threshold of your hut, sipping warm chicha and chewing the morning's coca offering. And for a moment, the world is hushed. Even the llamas haven't started arguing yet. But peace is fleeting up here. Today, your task is tracking the work ledgers. By hand. With knots. You don't know why you've been chosen. Maybe the inspector said something favorable. Maybe the foreman saw you squinting at his kipu the other day. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because you're not completely terrible at counting things. And not prone to falling asleep mid-task. The kipu master, an elderly man with sun-scorched skin and a white-streaked braid, meets you beside the supply hut. He carries with him a series of rolled cords that look like they've lived longer than most people here. Dozens of colors, hundreds of knots. He doesn't say much. He just begins, and expects you to keep up. You sit beside him cross-legged as he unrolls a kipu and begins tapping individual knots with a carved stick. He murmurs measurements, something like 22 in shaft 3, 3 half-days missed, 16 baskets unaccounted for. You nod, trying to match the pattern to the logic. It's not math exactly. It's storytelling with tension. Historians still debate whether these knotted cords held only numerical data or whether they could carry language. Some suspect the spacing between knots was a kind of grammar. Others believe scent or rhythm played a role. You, sitting here now, think it's all true. Because as the master works, you start to feel the stories unraveling. Who worked where? Who was efficient? Who got injured? Who sang too loud near a sacred wall? You begin sorting new cords by color. Blue for cold weather goods, red for ore weight, green for maize distributions. Each color knotted in a style that your fingers begin to learn, like they were born for it. It's soothing. Until someone shouts. You snap your head up. A worker comes running from the upper terrace, face pale, arms flailing for balance. You scramble to your feet. Everyone nearby goes still. It's not another cave-in. It's worse. A ledger is missing. Not just any ledger, a high-rank kipu from last harvest, detailing the gold shipments and mita labor rotations. Gone. The foreman storms out of his hut like a thundercloud in sandals. The inspector follows, less angry, more calculating. Everyone starts searching. Baskets are overturned, sleeping mats lifted, llamas examined. Again, awkward. The master doesn't panic. He just stands and begins winding the cords tighter, like gathering thoughts. You're assigned to check the sleeping quarters. You don't find anything. But you do find a young boy, maybe 8 or 9, crying quietly behind the storage hut. You kneel and ask him gently what's wrong. Between sniffles, he confesses he took the kipu. Not to steal it, just to play, to pretend. He thought it was a necklace for the sun god. You carry him to the master, the cord clutched gently in his hand. It's smudged but unharmed. The master kneels, takes it back, and, shockingly, smiles. Just a little. No punishment. Just a quiet moment. The boy is sent off with a new spindle of thread and a gentle pat. Practice, the master says, gesturing toward you. With him. You're stunned. You now have an apprentice. Of sorts. You spend the rest of the day teaching him how to count bundles of firewood. He keeps skipping 3, but he's trying. By dusk, the cord is back where it belongs. The panic has faded. The foreman mutters something about intolerable distractions, but the inspector just writes it off as a misunderstanding. You sit near the fire that evening, the boy curled up beside you, head on a folded tunic. Your fingers ache from knotting, your eyes are dry, but your mind is oddly light. You think back to your first day here, how heavy everything felt. The air, the fear, even the sunlight. Now, there's something else. Not joy,
but belonging. In the flicker of torchlight, the quipu glows faintly. Not gold, not silver, just memory, knotted in colored thread. The morning begins with drums. Not war drums, not even ceremonial ones. Just a low, steady rhythm, echoing across the terraces, like a heartbeat, coaxing the workers into motion. You blink sleep from your eyes, pull your blanket tighter, and sit up slowly. Your bones creak now when you move, like they've absorbed some of the mind's sediment. You look down at the little Illa figure by your side, still there, still watching. You nod to it like you're old friends now. Today is smelting day, real smelting, not delivery. You're on furnace duty. You shuffle toward the smoke, following the scent of burning charcoal and bitter ore. The smelting area sits on a lower plateau, ringed by rock walls and layered with soot. Flames crackle inside clay domes that look half-melted themselves. You've passed by this place before, but never worked here. The heat alone always felt like a warning. A priest greets you with a smudge of black ash across your forehead. You weren't expecting that. He murmurs a few words in Quechua you can't fully catch, probably blessings, or maybe just don't mess this up. Your job is simple, in theory. Feed the fire, monitor the bellows, don't die. There are 4 furnaces, each glowing faintly orange in the morning haze. The bellows are made from stretched llama hide, connected to hollow reeds. You pump them slowly, pushing air into the fire so it roars to life. It's like breathing for the mountain, your hands as lungs, your arms as rhythm. The gold isn't poured yet. First, the ore must be crushed and roasted. You watch as others bring in baskets of rocky dust and toss it into shallow trays. The fire burns away impurities. What remains is scooped, filtered, and gathered into small clay crucibles. Then comes the pouring. A worker tips a crucible carefully into a mold. The molten gold flows like honey, slow, thick, and blindingly bright. It hisses as it hits the cooler surface, steam rising in spirals. You step back instinctively. Your eyebrows feel warmer.
Historians have long admired the Inca's ability to work with gold without advanced tools. What they lacked in metallurgy, they made up for in ritual, precision, and sheer human will. Every movement here is practiced, reverent. The gold isn't just metal, it's part of a ceremony. You pass ingots from the cooling racks to a pile near the priest. Each is stamped with a small symbol, sunburst, animals, or glyphs. You don't ask what they mean. It doesn't feel right, but your fingers trace one as you pass it over, and you swear you feel it hum. The boy from yesterday finds you here. He's not working, just watching. His eyes are wide with awe. You remember that feeling. You still have it. The heat, the glow, the strange silence that wraps the smelting yard. It's like stepping into a dream you're not sure you belong in. During a lull, the priest sits with you by the edge of the platform. He pours a small splash of chicha into a bowl and places it at the furnace's base. Then he speaks, softly. This is where the sun is reborn. You nod, because what else can you do? Later, you help bury the ash. Not discard, bury. In small pits near the slope, marked with stones, the ash, you're told, holds memory. You don't know if that's true, but it sounds like something you'd like to believe. Your hands are black now. Not just dirty, coated. Every line, every wrinkle filled with soot and gold dust. You could wash it off, but you don't. Not yet. Evening falls slowly. The sky turns bronze, then lavender, then velvet blue. The furnace is dim, one by one. The priest covers each with a blanket of woven grass, as if tucking them in. You return to your hut with a chunk of bread and a bowl of broth. The boy is there, waiting. He hands you a small clay figure he made, a crude llama with one leg too short. You take it like it's treasure. You sleep with it near the Ila,
2 guardians now. That night your dreams are strange. You walk through a golden tunnel, lit not by fire but by stars. The walls pulse like breath. At the end stands a figure, not the foreman, not the priest, but someone wrapped in sun-colored robes, face hidden, hands open. They offer you a stone. You reach out and wake up. The stone is not there, but the warmth in your hands lingers.
You awaken with the memory of that dream still clinging to you like mountain mist. The golden tunnel, the open hands, the stone. It shouldn't mean anything, but somehow it does. You press your palms together just to see if that warmth is still there. It's not. Not exactly, but something remains. A tingle, maybe, or just the echo of something remembered. Outside, the morning is unusually quiet. No footsteps yet, no shouted instructions. Even the llamas seem contemplative. You take your time rising, stretching every joint like it's made of wet rope. Your body feels borrowed. Your mind, somewhere between worlds. The boy is waiting outside. He doesn't say anything, just hands you a string of twisted cords. Bright red and yellow, his version of a quipu, clumsily knotted. You smile. It's completely unreadable, obviously, but that doesn't matter. He tried, and that counts for something here. Today's assignment is more mental than physical, which feels almost like a gift. You'll be assisting with ritual inventory for the upcoming festival. You didn't even know a festival was coming. Apparently, every few months, the workers are allowed to participate in a local Inti Raymi-like event. Smaller than the Grand Cusco ceremonies, but no less sincere. Offerings are made, dances are performed, songs are sung with such raw, hoarse joy that even the mountains seem to pause and listen. But first, someone has to count things. You spend the morning in a dark storage room, sorting feathers, shells, woven sashes, and small carved idols. Some are chipped, some shimmer with gold leaf. All are handled carefully, respectfully, as if even dust on them is sacred. One worker explains that each item represents an offering, a stand-in for someone's labor, gratitude, or fear. A feather might represent a prayer for wind, a carved frog, rain, a knotted cord, memory. You record them on a fresh quipu, under the supervision of the master. He corrects your spacing, adjusts a knot, then pats your shoulder. Approval is rare. You cherish it. By midday, the terrace is buzzing with preparation. Women lay out cloths of dyed red and black. Men unroll long ropes of woven banners. The smoke of fresh cooking fires drifts lazily upward, mingling with the scent of roasted maize and herbs. Llamas are decorated, not extravagantly, just enough to make them look slightly more amused than usual. The boy has been given a flute. He doesn't know how to play it, but that doesn't stop him from trying. You're handed a fresh tunic, scratchy but brightly dyed, and asked to carry one of the offering trays. It's an honor, they say, for a worker who's lasted this long without incident. You'll take it. As the sun reaches its peak, the music begins. Not drums this time, but flutes, whistles, hollowed reeds. The sound is uneven, almost clumsy, but heartfelt. People gather around a flat stone altar, where the priest stands with arms raised. You follow the others, kneeling before the offering trays, hands pressed together. The priest speaks, not loudly but with steady rhythm. You don't catch every word, but you recognize the names. Inti, Pachamama, Apus. The mountain, the sun, the earth. And then, one by one, the trays are passed forward. You carry yours carefully, steps measured. It holds small gold flakes, coca leaves, and a folded cloth. Nothing fancy, but it feels weighty anyway. You place it gently on the stone. The priest sprinkles water. Someone offers a handful of chicha. A flame is lit, not large, just enough to smoke. It carries the scent of wood, resin, and old memory. Then, everyone waits, not for a sign, just out of habit, out of respect. The moment stretches, quiet and warm, until the priest steps back and nods. It's done. Now, the celebration. People begin to move, some to dance, others to sing, some just to sit in circles and share food. You're pulled into a group of workers who clap and sway in time to a song that has no real beginning or end. The boy dances too, his flute now doubling as a pretend spear. A llama tries to eat someone's feathered headdress. Everyone laughs. Historians often frame the Inca as rigid, hierarchical, obsessed with order and labor. But here, in this high, smoke-swirled courtyard, you see another side.
The joy, the collective breath, the release. Later, as dust stains the sky with peach and wine, the fires are allowed to burn low. People drift back to their quarters. You help clean, sweeping ash from the stone, collecting half-drunk gourds, folding cloths no one wants to leave to the wind. The priest thanks you with a nod. You thank him with silence. That night, you place your own makeshift offering beside the Ila and the crooked llama figurine. A single red thread from the ritual cloth. Just a thread, but maybe enough. You dream again. This time, the figure in gold offers you nothing. Instead, they nod and vanish. You wake to the sound of hooves. Not many, just one or two, slow and deliberate. Outside, it's still dark, but the air carries that just before dawn hush. The kind that feels like holding your breath between the final note of a song and the silence that follows. You stretch. Your back protests. Your legs stage a minor rebellion, but you rise. Outside, the foreman stands beside a man in a traveler's cloak, his hair damp with dew, his face streaked with dust from a long road. He's not a local, not by his accent, not by the thin silver thread woven into his belt. A royal messenger, maybe, or a kipu kamayuk from a district office. Whatever his purpose, it doesn't matter much to you until he points at you. You freeze mid-bite on a chunk of cold corn cake. The foreman nods slowly, then gestures toward your pack. You'll go, he says. And just like that, you're back on the road. Not for punishment, not for delivery, but for message bearing. You're to carry a record, woven in knots and codes, stamped with a wax seal, and wrapped in dyed cloth. From this mine to a shrine several ridgelines away. A routine task, you're told. Routine, except for the fact that you've never actually left this slope since arriving. You don't argue. Your pack is light. The thread bundle is carefully protected. You're given a pouch of maize, a pinch of salt, and a gourd of chicha, sealed with pine tar. The foreman claps you once on the shoulder, firm, not unkind, and turns away. The path is narrow, but it's not the same one you took with the llama train. This one winds higher, clinging to the mountain's spine like a ribbon laid down by someone with a very cavalier sense of safety. You walk in silence, save for the crunch of gravel underfoot and the occasional flap of condor wings overhead. Far below, the terraces and mine flicker between mist and shadow. The air sharpens as you ascend. You chew coca leaves sparingly, sipping water from the gourd and pacing your steps. The cold bites through your cloak, and at one point, you slip and land squarely on your dignity. A few hours in, you stop to rest. There's a stone outcrop here, carved faintly with spiral patterns. Another marker, another reminder that this path has been walked before, by feet far older and wiser than yours. You place a leaf on the stone, just in case, and move on. By midday, the sun pierces the clouds in golden beams that seem to chase you along the ridge. You reach the shrine, a cluster of stone slabs set in a crescent with a raised altar carved from a single block of granite. No one's there, just wind, sky, and lichen-covered silence. You place the cloth bundle on the altar and wait. It's not dramatic. There's no booming voice, no condor descending with a scroll in its beak, just the quiet return of breath, the feel of the rock under your hands, and the strange lightness in your chest. You don't linger. By the time you return to the mine, the sun is sinking again, and the shadows stretch long and narrow. You're greeted with little more than a nod from the guard near the terrace. It's enough. The boy sees you and runs up, waving a new kipu he's made, this one only slightly tangled. You ruffle his hair and tell him it looks official. He beams. Later that night, you sit with the foreman by the fire. He doesn't speak much, but he hands you a flat stone, warm from the embers, with something carved into it. It's a sunburst. Crude, but unmistakable. You turn it over in your hand, unsure if it's a gift, A test? Or just something he found in the mine? He shrugs. It was buried near shaft 4, he says simply. You nod. He adds, keep it, if it doesn't feel too heavy. You don't know if he means the weight in your palm or something else entirely. You thank him anyway. That night, you don't dream. Not in pictures, anyway. But when you wake, you feel lighter. And in the cold morning glow, the little red thread, the crooked llama, the Ela, and the sunburst stone all sit in a tidy line beside your mat, like guardians of something not quite explained.
You don't realize it's your last day until it's already half over. There's no announcement, no ritual farewell, no gold-plated certificate. Just a quiet visit from a messenger bearing a scroll tucked into his belt and a single line delivered to the foreman, who grunts and points vaguely in your direction.
Your name is on a list.
Your Mita service is complete. You've done your time. You're allowed to leave. And suddenly, you're not sure how you feel about that. The foreman calls you over. He doesn't offer congratulations. He doesn't even really look at you, just tells you to gather your things, report to the trail by mid-afternoon, and take whatever you carried here, plus whatever small tokens you've earned. He pauses, then adds, don't forget your hands. You stare at them. They're cracked, stained, and scarred. Your wrists ache from months of swinging stone. But they're yours, and they've survived. The others hear the news in passing. No tears, no parties. Just a few nods, a half smile from the priest, and a surprisingly sincere handshake from the old Kipu master, who presses a short string of green and yellow cord into your hand. Remember how to read, he says. The boy tries to hide that he's upset. He fails. You kneel and hand him the crooked clay llama. He cradles it like it's made of emerald. I'll make a better one, he says stubbornly. I hope not, you whisper. You gather your pack slowly. You don't own much: a worn tunic, a blanket, the sunburst stone from the foreman, the Ela totem, the Kipu cord, a pouch of coca leaves tied with red string. You wrap them in your cloak and tie it tight. Before you leave, you walk once more to the edge of the shaft, the first one, the one where you met the wall that refused to break, the rock that made you cry in silence. It's quiet now. No workers inside, just the mountain breathing softly through its open mouth. You offer a final coca leaf to Pachamama. No words. She knows. The walk down the mountain is slow and oddly solemn. The air thickens as you descend. Your breathing becomes easier, but your chest feels heavier. Not from fatigue, but from something harder to name. Loss, maybe. Or transition. The path twists and curves like an old story, and you walk it like someone reading a favorite book for the last time. At the second bend, you turn to look back. The terraces shine faintly in the late sun. Smoke curls from the smelters. A llama lifts its head and blinks. The mountain watches you leave without expression. You nod to it. Because that's what you do now. You acknowledge things older than you. As the mine fades from view, the sounds shift, from tools and footsteps to birds and wind, from clinking ore to trickling water. The forest edge thickens. The ground softens. Flowers bloom at your feet like they've been waiting for your exit. You pass other travelers, some carrying bundles, others leading caravans. No one speaks, but everyone nods. That shared understanding between people who've worked, endured, and somehow come out the other side. By nightfall, you reach a rest post along the Inca Road. A small shelter with a cooking fire, a bowl of thick stew, and a mat that smells like cedar smoke and old wool. You sleep soundly. For the first time in months, your dreams are empty, just quiet. Just sleep. And now, as the fire dims low and your thoughts soften around the edges, let your breath grow slower, deeper, and gentler. You've walked the stones of the Andes, climbed the spines of sacred mountains, chipped at walls that never spoke back, and watched gold melt like sunlight into bowls lined with prayer. You've worked beside men who never smiled, but always shared, carried bundles heavier than your regrets, and left behind a boy with a crooked clay llama who will probably grow into someone braver than both of you combined. Your muscles ache, but they remember. Your hands are worn, but they've learned. And somewhere, deep beneath the soil, the mountain holds a small, silent piece of you, like it does for all who pass through its lungs and shadows. You don't need to climb anymore. Not tonight. Not in this still moment where history has folded itself around you like a warm, woven cloak, where the only sounds left are the hush of distant wind, the echo of bells on a sleeping llama, and the rhythm of your own breath, slow, steady, and safe. Let it all fade now. Let the gold remain in stories and the fire burn only in dreams. Close your eyes. You've done enough. Rest now. Sleep well.